All right, guys, welcome back to the program. So let's get into what's happening with Mia Mottley. Mia Mottley, of course, is the charismatic, powerful Prime Minister of Barbados who has captured the world's attention with her bold speeches, progressive policies and fierce leadership. Now, to the public, she's a champion for people, leader pushing for Barbadian sovereignty and climate action. But to the globalist elite, Mia Mottley is an essential player in a larger agenda, one that spans the Caribbean and beyond. And her re-election and continued hold on power are pivotal for a very different kind of future. Let's talk about that and why Mia Mottley is seen as indispensable to the globalists and how she fits into their grand designs. Barbados is really a crown jewel in the Caribbean. It's no ordinary island. And I think you would agree with me for centuries that's been a symbol of colonial resistance and independence and self determination. But over the past few decades, something else has been brewing beneath the surface. Mia Mottley's rise to power coincides with the global shift towards digital governance, environmental restructuring, and AI driven economies. And Barbados, with its relatively small population, stability and international profile, was handpicked as the perfect incubator for these ideas. And you may ask me why Miyamaki? You see, the climate agenda is something that Miyamaki has been on for a while. And Motley's green economy vision for Barbados has made waves on the international stage. Now, at the UN climate change summits, she has positioned herself as an unwavering advocate for small island states, pushing hard for climate reparations and debt for climate swaps. On the surface, I would tell you that these efforts seem like a very nice way, to protect the environment, but they're actually part of a much larger globalist strategy. Climate reparations and debt forgiveness sounds good, right? So the globalist agenda is basically to use small island nations like Barbados as experimental grounds for climate reparations, which comes with strings attached, of course. And while debt forgiveness might sound like a win, it often means increased global control over national policies. And Motley has opened the door for these reparations through debt for climate swaps, where foreign powers can control whatever little resources the islands have. It's land, its economy in exchange for debt relief. Essentially, what it's doing is locking Barbados into a system of global financial dependence. And more so, digital surveillance. Now, under Motley, Barbados has pushed forward with digital transformation programs. I tell you something, just recently you heard the Attorney General speaking about wiretapping. That's not of their making. They said it's been done for years. Things are happening in Barbados. Yeah, we all know a lot of things have been going on for years in all of these islands per se. And Trinidad has it, wiretapping, and I think Antigua St. Lucia, which I will go into in other videos. I will line out the agenda for all of these islands. But digital ID and surveillance. Barbados is what I call one of the greatest test beds for implementing this universal digital identity system that they have. It's tied actually to the blockchain ledger. And so this system allows for total surveillance, everything from your healthcare records, your travel patterns, your financial transactions, to even your social and political activity. And this is the part that they really want, the social and political activity. I don't know if you heard about the carbon travel, where in the UK and places like that in Europe, they say they can tell you how often you can travel. And if your carbon credits run out, that's it for you for the year. See, a lot of things people don't like to hear. They like to live in a tushy good world, but this is not a tushy good world. Because for the globalists, the digital ID system becomes a perfect way to monitor and control populations under the guise of convenience and security. And I will tell you, Mottley's administration has pushed for these ideas, making Barbados a model for the Caribbean nations and eventually all of Latin America in how to implement the global surveillance economy. We're going cashless, my people. We're going cashless. And Mottley's push for cashless transaction and digital payment systems are a step towards making Barbados what I call a hub for global digital currency. See, it's not just about tech innovations, it's about shaping the future of digital finance and where central banks and the global powers will have full control of monetary systems and citizens and will rely entirely on digital currency that can be tracked, controlled, and regulated. Do you know that these CDBC or stable coin and all these nonsense that you hear them talking about? These things can be programmed. So they can basically tell you what to buy and how to buy and when to buy. People don't understand what is actually happening and they say it's faster, it's better, it makes you move around quickly, do your business. Yeah, that's the good part. They don't tell you the bad part. And so Barbados has now become what I call a model for the global south. Because you see, Mia Mottley has been positioned as a face of the global south, the developing world, pushing for reforms that benefit small island nations. She speaks to the global south's need for climate justice. But the truth is, she is actually paving the way for these nations to align with the globalist agenda. A unified Caribbean is what is on the cards. And Mottley has been vocal about creating a unified Caribbean under the leadership of global institutions like the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. You see, her leadership is part of what I would say is a larger push to consolidate smaller Caribbean nations into a centralized regional governance framework. And while this might seem like regional cooperation, it actually sets the stage for global governance structures to have more influence over national sovereignty in the Caribbean. And so there's all these strategic partnerships with global powers, and Mudley has been very provocative in forging partnerships with powerful nations like the US and China and the EU, while all positioning Barbados as a neutral power broker. You see, these alliances ensure that Barbados remains what they call a key player in the global power game. And by keeping Muttley in power, the globalists can be certain that Barbados will continue to act as a compliant middleman, facilitating what? Trade, finance, and energy flows for the global elites. The globalist agenda for Barbados is very clear. The globalist agenda is clear to all of us now whose eyes are open. And it is clear why Mia Mottley must stay in power. She is a full actor. The future of Barbados as a testing ground for the New World Order is clear. And if Mia Mottley were to lose power, the globalist agenda for Barbados would be at risk. And as such, global forces are likely to do everything they can to keep and ensure Mottley stays in power, even if it means supporting her against internal opposition or external pressures. Mia Mottley isn't just the Prime Minister of Barbados, my friends. She's a pivotal figure in the globalist strategy to reshape the Caribbean. And keeping her in power ensures that Barbados remains a compliant player, an example for what is to come, and a critical asset in the march towards a new global order. So I would say to you, the next time you hear about Mottley and her speeches at the international summits, or her bold plans for climate forward tech driven economy, remember this. She's not just representing Barbados, my friends. She's helping steer the island and the rest of the Caribbean towards a future controlled by a select few. The stakes are very high, much higher than any one of us could imagine. Open your eyes, read the room, as the people would say, because what you don't know could end up killing you.